Hey, it's Richard. Welcome back to the channel. A lot of the businesses that I work with, most of them in fact, are what are called SME businesses, small to medium enterprises. And SME is, as a term, is quite a broad church. It can cover anything from one person up to sometimes 200 by some definitions. But generally, in my mind, it's the 1 to 50 or 60 or slightly more person type of businesses. And there are a huge number of these businesses, certainly here in the UK, I'm sure wherever you are in the world as well. When you look at business demographics, by far the majority of businesses are very small businesses. And there is nothing wrong with a small business. Very often when you start a business, someone will say, what's your plans to grow it? My business is me. I'm a single person business, and there are many, many, many people who run a business just as themselves, and that's perfectly okay. I personally don't have any plans to grow this to a team of people, really. I enjoy what I do, and I would just like to do that for more and more interesting clients, interesting companies in interesting places. It's a great life, and I enjoy it a lot. Some SMEs are slightly bigger. I often work with companies that are 10, 12, 15 to 20 people, and some of them are even sort of 50, 60 people in size. But they're very similar in many ways, quite different in some ways as you go through the different sizes of company, but very similar in other ways. But I love SMEs. I used to work for a very large consultancy. I work for a consultancy that's 50 or 60,000 people strong now globally. Great company. There are a lot of good big companies like it, but they're very, very different. And even then, I was convinced that SME sized businesses, smaller businesses, were actually probably better than the large consultancies and large businesses at many things. And that's proven itself out. That has proven as I've worked with them and formed on myself. There are things you can do and ways you can work in a small business that you just can't do in a large business for many reasons. Number one, okay, the first reason is small businesses are much faster and much more responsive. In a large business, if you decide you want to have, for instance, a marketing push on a certain topic, it can take months to get that scheduled in, for the marketing team to have the media made, for it to be sent back to you and approved and finally uploaded and edited via many, many people. It becomes not what you wanted. And actually, by the time it's launched, the moment has sometimes passed. As a small business, if you decide you're going to have a marketing push on something, you can just do it. They're very, very responsive. The layers of leadership through which any decisions have to be made are sometimes non-existent, but certainly much, much flatter than a large organization. So if you want to do something, if you want to make a change, if you need to respond to something that's happening in the world, if the environment that you work in changes, you can change with it. You don't have to go up through levels of leadership and board meetings and many decision-making processes before you can decide the thing to do to respond to an opportunity or to a challenge. So SMEs are faster and more responsive than larger businesses. The second way that I see SMEs as fantastic things, and sometimes better than a large business, is in the service that they give. Larger businesses, you might, and I'm typifying things here, but you might see a senior person when the job is being won. The client might meet someone very senior when they're meeting that new client and wanting to impress and show them everything the company can do. But quite often you find then that when they're successful in winning that contract, it isn't those senior people delivering it. And that's not always a bad thing. It gives more junior staff exposure to client projects, but it's very rare that you have a truly director-led project on every project. Now, a smaller business can do that quite easily. You can ensure that you have your more senior staff on more of your projects for more of your clients. And that in turn gives your team more chance to work with senior people within your business for their own development, but it also delivers a much better result for the client because the client has that more experienced person and probably at a lower cost than one of the other larger businesses that they could choose to work with. So I absolutely believe that under the right circumstances, and if you do it right, as an SME, you can deliver a much better service to your clients than your larger competitors. It was a theory I had before I left a large consultant and started consultancy and started my own. I've seen that borne out again and again and again with the companies that I work for, where their clients will say, you know, we had big company X, Y, and Z on this, but they just weren't giving us what we wanted. Could you help? And smaller businesses pick up that kind of work all the time. You can deliver a much better service, a much more personal service, a service that's much closer to your client than a bigger and larger organization always can. And the third reason, not the final reason, there are many reasons, but the third reason why SME businesses are absolutely brilliant and often better than a larger alternative is in the way that you very often specialize your business. Now, I know I've told this story before in a previous video, but I sat once in a meeting with a first meeting with a very big new potential client, a global client that we wanted to work with. And we did the big company presentation because we genuinely were in every region in the world, and we had a multidisciplinary service offering, which means we did lots of different services across the range of things that they might want. So we had all the services in all the areas, and we went to great lengths to explain this to the guy. And he said, so what do I come to you for then? And we were a little bit on the back foot then, because we thought, well, we've just told you. Now, this is a problem for sales and marketing, and it's a problem for your clients, because if they can't understand exactly what the thing is that you're the best at, you're going to have a really hard time explaining it to them. And if they don't get it, then they probably won't get it. So as a smaller business, and I would seriously encourage you as a small SME size consultancy or manufacturer or design company, whatever it is you do, to stay specialized. You can grow bigger. It's not a problem. You can grow quite a lot bigger, but keep specialized at the thing that you are the best to do, because you'll get a name for that. And sure, you won't be able to pick up a large multidisciplinary project in the way that some of the bigger organizations can, but that's not what you're for. That's not your sweet spot. You can pick up the work where someone says, I genuinely want a true expert at this thing. If you think about it like your car, now, if you have a real specialized car, you have a classic Ferrari or something like that, when that needs some work on it, you don't take it to a generalist mechanic or a large chain that will do lots of things for lots of different vehicles. You go to a specialist and you pay that specialist really well for that service. That's the benefit of an SME, is you can be that high-end specialist in the particular service or services or sector, whatever it is that's your specialism to work in. So if you are the leader of an SME, don't worry too much about when people say, what are your plans for growth? Don't feel like you have to get a lot bigger in order to have a valid business. If growth in that way is your plan, for whatever reason, that's completely fine. But actually, if you take a look at yourselves and your business and think, do you know what? To stay more or less this size, or get a little bit bigger, but be genuine expert specialists at what we do and enjoy what we do and deliver a great service for our clients, that's absolutely fine too. SMEs, I absolutely love them. I've started one myself. I love being an SME business owner. I hope you do too. Thanks so much for watching. There'll be another video out next week. I will catch you soon, but in the meantime, have a great week. Cheers.